Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Larry Jacobs, and this is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio on January 11th, 2023. It's a pleasure to have you here today, as it also is a pleasure to have my guest here today. That's Sandi White. Sandi is the VP of Institutional Markets at a company called TUTORING.com. And as you know, we are the American Consortium for Equity in Education. And we are very interested in tutoring because tutoring is all about equity and access to learning. Okay, so I was thrilled when we could get Sandi on the show today to talk about her view of what's going on out there in the wacky world of tutoring to pre-K-12 and how tutor.com works and all that sort of thing. These are important things. Okay, and we need to really understand it, and not only understand just what tutoring is, but why the importance of it has changed so much over recent times, especially since the pandemic. It all boils down to equity and access. And as mentioned, we're the American Consortium for Equity and Access. We have our magazine, which is called Equity and Access Pre-K-12. It goes out to thousands and thousands of educators. It's our online journal. You can subscribe for free over at ace-ed.org. Check out the magazine. It's over there. You'll see the cover. Just click through and enjoy this current issue. We're putting together the February issue as we speak. Okay, but the current issue is up there. The podcasts like this one are all archived over there. And there's a link to all our other sites about SEL, social emotional learning, teacher retention, plus a ton of other news, all about equity and access products, what's going on in the field, etc. Everything's at ace-ed.org. And without further ado, I hope I introduced her well, and I think she's in California. Sandi, are you there? It's Larry here.
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandi. I'm so glad we got this together. We had a cancellation a couple of times because you weren't feeling well. How you doing today? Everything good?
I'm doing great. I feel wonderful. Good. Thank you. Thank you for being patient with me. I appreciate it.
Are you kidding me? I've been waiting for you to do the show with us, and I'm thrilled we were able to get it today. Are you in California?
I am. Yes, it's 7:32 a.m. in the morning in California.
Thank you for being I'm in Maine, all the way across the country from you. Thank you for getting up so early and doing this and get that coffee in your hand. I looked up your area code. I'm not sure where you are. Are you involved in that bad weather?
I am. Yeah, I actually think most of California is involved in this bad weather. But I've been fortunate. I'm in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, so I'm higher, and I haven't had flooding, but just 30 minutes down the road, it's pretty terrible. So,
oh, jeez, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's been tough. Yeah, it's been tough. Yeah. But yep. And you're in beautiful Maine.
I am in beautiful Maine, and we go through, blizzard weather and that sort of thing where we lose electricity. It is no fun. But I'll tell you, when you have flooding is one of the worst things because you just watch. Okay, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just a horrible situation, and I just wish everybody out there the best. It's just terrible.
I do too. I grew up in New England, though, so I also have experienced your weather as well in Massachusetts. You can probably hear that accent surfacing.
I can a little bit. Where in good old Mass? My wife's down there today.
I grew up in a mill town called Lawrence, Massachusetts.
I love Lawrence. Sure, we're there all the time. Okay, we have relatives all through the area in Salem and Billerica and Chelmsford and all those places that you know also well.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
Wow, that's awesome. And my family's still there. Yeah, my family's still in Lawrence and Londonderry, New Hampshire, Methuen, all that area. So
one of my best friends lives in Methuen. That's so great.
We might know the same people. We'll have to connect out.
Believe me, if you live in Methuen, you know the same people. I can tell you that right off the bat. Great, everybody's great. You made the move out west to hopefully better weather than what you're having right now. So get a little calm down.
I did 30 years ago. I did. So
it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. Don't come visit in February. It's still safe out here in February.
Oh, it's beautiful where you live. Gorgeous.
I do agree. I love it out here. Okay. Yeah. It's so good to know you, Sandi. It really is. Okay,
nice to
thank
meet you
for being here today. Okay. Brag a little bit. You're Senior Vice President of Institutional Markets at Tutor.com. Obviously, schools, et cetera, are in there. Tell everybody about Tutor.com. Go ahead. Brag. Have fun. Go for it.
Well, thank you. Tutor.com provides online tutoring and has since the year 2000. So we were doing online tutoring when people were like, online tutoring. And, you know, in a world that was very different than today, you know, people didn't have Wi-Fi at home, didn't have a cell phone in their hand. But we knew there was a need for students to get help at the moment that they needed it, right? At that moment, whether it was 10 o'clock at night because they had soccer practice and you know, needed some additional help, or during the day, you know, during the school day when they needed some individualized attention. So we launched Tutor.com, and at that time, we partnered with public libraries because at that time, that's where you could go. I mean, as you know, this is about equity, right? They are the great equalizers of our country, public libraries, and that's where you could go to get access.
I agree with you more on that. Yeah. So thank you for saying that.
And today, right, to get access to the internet, to get access to computers. So we originally partnered with public libraries, and then from there have grown our business to really work in 5 different markets, with the fastest growing market, the K-12 market, in the last few years. And we provide on-demand tutoring, so 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Students can connect through our platform with a qualified subject matter expert who has been well vetted and get help in over 250 subjects. And they can connect with us on demand. They can schedule a session with us. They can also send us documents that we can review for them, so a book report, an essay,
That's great.
and use other resources on our platform to get help. Yeah,
I love that. That's just great. I was watching TV last night, and I saw a segment on the PBS NewsHour about artificial intelligence, how you just plug in like Moby Dick, and it writes the book report for you, which makes me sick in the stomach. Again, it makes me nauseated. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, that you actually have people, okay, who the kid has to write it and you guys can review it. I think that's wonderful. Okay.
Yes, and what we do is we review it, and we really focus primarily on high order concerns. So, you know, sentence structure, you know, paragraph, and help identify areas where they can improve. We will identify patterns, but then ask them to do the work. We will not do the work for them. So we're not a proofreading service. We're a service to give them the information they need to go and improve what they are doing so that they excel. I mean, that's our goal, right, is to help every student achieve their best.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. I really do, and I appreciate what you're doing out there. And by the way, I was looking at your website before, and you had started to answer the question I was going to ask you, so you did. I was trying to figure out where libraries, you had a big thing about libraries, and I was trying to figure out how libraries actually fit into this, and you just answered that. Okay, and we love libraries. Okay, I love school libraries. I love libraries in general. You know, and they were the conduit to information. Okay, and still are, I might add. Okay,
and they still are.
And they helped save the day during the pandemic. They helped save the day during the pandemic. And you know, I live in rural Maine, and during the pandemic, there were kids, okay, who were hanging out at night outside of the library with their parents in the car, because that's where the Wi-Fi was for the town. Okay, and they didn't have it. So thank you for doing all that. But you said, you know, a student can call it. How do you guys work your operation at Tutor.com? Do you sell to the school district or to an individual school or to individual parents? How's that all work?
We do. Well, we are an institutional business. So what that means is that we sell to, you know, an organization, whether it be a K-12 school or a school district, whether it be a public library. We also have, and I know this will be exciting, I think, for you to hear. We also have a contract with the Department of Defense where we are available to all service members, their dependents, whether they're K-12 or college level, their spouses, cadets, DoD civilians. We are available to all those constituencies paid for by the Department of Defense. So at no cost to those families, they can have access. I know, it's awesome. And it's something we're incredibly proud of.
That is absolutely awesome, and I assume they can access that wherever they are in the world. right?
Wherever they are in the world. And we do work with a lot of families that are overseas and deployed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then we also work with colleges and universities. We have somewhere around 350 colleges and universities that engage with us, not only to support their online students, which of course, makes a lot of sense, but also their on-ground students. It's often those students are not on campus at night, but that's when they're stuck and they have a knowledge gap and they need to connect with us. So, we support a number of different colleges throughout the country.
Do you work
both
with
big
community
online
colleges?
Say that again?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you work with community colleges as well as for your institutions? Wow. You guys are good.
I would say over 50% of the colleges that we work with are community colleges.
And I'm a huge, huge fan of community colleges. I cannot tell you how important I think they are in the scheme of things. Okay, they save people money. They do a good job. It's higher ed. I go right down the list. I mean, I just think they're sometimes looked at oddly by people when I mention it to people. Why don't you send your kid to community college first? And I think you'll love this. And they go, oh no, we're going to send them to University of Stanford. And of course, the kid drops out after 6 months. Okay, decides they want to go with their boyfriend somewhere. It's just ridiculous. People are spending all this money. Okay, community colleges do a wonderful job to get people going. I got to tell you. Okay, so I love what you guys are doing. It's really something. So you said something earlier, and I want to just jump on that. The landscape of tutoring has changed. Of course, certainly changed from when you guys started in 2000. But the pandemic, I think everybody knows about the pandemic, hit,
Correct.
And then literally everything changed. Okay, it set up all new paradigms. Okay, and talk about the changing landscape of tutoring, and you've been there through this whole thing, pre-pandemic, during, and post. If you can do that, Sandi, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First, I mean, as you know, tutoring has deep historical roots, right? Socrates tutored Aristotle. Aristotle tutored Alexander the Great. And at its core, it's about working with learners to help them.
If you sign up with Tutor.com, you will be conquering the known world like Alexander the Great did. Is that correct? That's what you're.
That is true.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
So, but tutoring at its core is working with learners to help them reach a really deep level of understanding on a topic or a subject. And the best tutoring combines subject knowledge with empathy. So as schools and districts today struggle with unfinished learning, they are seeking out diverse tutoring options, right? They're trying to help students who have these gaps, a lot of them driven by the pandemic, to achieve grade level success. And there are a variety of tutoring options that they are looking at. They are doing in-person tutoring, and they've always done in-person tutoring, right? When my kids were in high school, they would go after school for tutoring, and it would be their teachers that were tutoring at that time. But they're also looking for other resources for a number of different reasons, and online is one of those options. We are one spoke in the wheel for helping them, to helping students. And schools are turning to online tutoring because, of course, they have teacher shortages right now, which is pretty well known.
Absolutely.
And staffing shortages, not only teachers, but finding local tutors is really difficult. They're addressing the academic gaps from the pandemic. And they need additional academic support for students, especially in math and in reading. So again, they're looking for a company like ours to partner with, and we're pleased to say that we partner with over 400 institutions, 400 schools and districts throughout the country, helping them both during the school day and supporting those students after school as well. That's been one of the biggest trends that we have seen, that there's been a huge increase in use of our tutoring service during the school day. So students are connecting with us, during the school day versus after school. About 30% last year of the sessions that we conducted were during the school day. And you might ask, how does that work, right? How are they doing that? And I can give you an example.
Go ahead, please.
A very large school district in California who recently did a webinar for us. They enroll about 74,000 students. They have a beautiful, diversified population. And they started the online tutoring program with us, our program, with their students during the pandemic. And, of course, at that time, students were home with their mom and dad and, didn't have teachers during the day with them because they were home. So they used us during that day to help them learn from home. Once they got back to campus, students and teachers, they used us differently. They leveraged us differently. They blended online tutoring with teacher instruction. So during the school day, they would have, the teachers focus on grade level learning. And for those that have the knowledge gaps, they would ask students to connect with us and get the help, the foundational help that they need, and then, go back into that class and be able to do that work. It helps teachers keep students on track within that class, but it also helps that student, right, to recognize, okay, I'm working one-on-one. I can do this work. It's just something small I'm missing, but I can do it, and they gain confidence and the ability to do it by connecting with one of our tutors.
That's a great overview. Thank you. And you said so many things in there. I wrote a lot of it down. Okay. And, right now, when you mentioned all these things, it's sort of, if I may, a perfect storm for tutoring. All right. You have the pandemic, plus the teacher shortage. Okay. Plus the need for SEL, plus the lack of subsidy. You can go right down a list of everything. Okay. And teachers are going. Literally, they're going off the rails there, trying to do all this, and they can't do it. The staff can't do it, and the school districts can't find the staff to back them up. Hence, companies like Tutor.com come in, where you have the people who can make this work. So you said, you worked. I don't know which school district it was. It was one of the big ones out there. Okay, how do you coordinate between the school district and your tutors? I mean, your tutors could be in you're talking about California. They could be in South Carolina. Okay, so which is fine. How do you manage to coordinate what the teacher is teaching in a classroom that day with what the kid may need that evening? And I know it's a whole big process. Yeah, how do you do that? It's great that you were able to do it. It's important. Yeah.
So we are curriculum agnostic. We don't have a curriculum. We work with that student they bring their work to us. So during that tutoring session, which happens in an online classroom, and they bring the work that they have, whether they draw it on the whiteboard, whether they upload it into that classroom, they bring it to the tutor, and then the tutor works with them in a Socratic method of teaching. So first, confirming this is the work you need. This is the work you need to do. Do you know where to start? What did your teacher share with you? Where are you with this? And then working with them in a pace that makes sure they understand every step that they take, right?
Thank you.
Throughout that process.
Thank you.
Because that's the core foundation. We did we studied thousands of our tutoring sessions, and we built a study that you'll actually find on our website, and your listeners might want to look for this as well. You can go to tutor.com/research, and it's called the hallmarks of high quality online tutoring. And we studied to understand what is the best sort of pace that you can use and transition in the online classroom into online tutoring to ensure that students are getting content mastery at the end of that session. And so you'll see 6 or 7 steps that we model every session on to ensure that student walks away with a thorough understanding of what they've come to us for. And then secondly, always encouraging them. That is so key right now.
Students,
yes,
students, it is.
It's a tough time for students. They went through a very tough period, and we see it in our tutoring sessions. And so just to give them some encouragement during that session is so critical for their mindset and for them to be able to move forward. So I hope that answers your question.
And I don't know whether you heard me mention at the top of the show, we do a lot of work in social emotional learning, okay? And that is such a huge thing these days, and rightly so, because the schools are really struggling with that, okay? And the students are struggling, et cetera. And you said the word, and I wrote it down before, which really struck me when you said it, okay, which is empathy. Okay, and I notice on your website that you have a phrasing here called effective methodology, uplifting multimodal instruction, it says, with empathy and privacy. Okay, and I got to tell you, that word empathy is extremely important these days, and I'm so proud of you guys at tutor.com for, emphasizing that. Because this whole SEL, SEL, you have on here, learning students will love, a partnership you will love. And, this is key stuff, okay? It's not just learning. It's about keeping kids engaged and having them enjoying their learning, okay? And
that is correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's important, which begs the question. Okay, you have, I don't know how many tutors you have. It says here you have over 3,000 highly qualified experts. I'm sure you do. How do you find them, and how do you train them to handle that? I mean, I know they're subject experts, okay, but they got you guys do even more, okay? Obviously, you're emphasizing that. Just talk about that. How do you find them? Who are they? And how do you train them to be empathetic? And most teachers are, by the way, but you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, most are. Yeah, if you're drawn to this profession, whether it's teaching or tutoring, you're going to have that characteristic of being empathetic, I would say. I mean, how do we find them? I will say that we benefit from our name first because, tutor.com, when people are looking for an online tutoring, position,
you come up first.
We have over 100,000 folks that come and register on our site to try to become a tutor for us. And only 1.2% of those that register actually ever become a tutor for us. And that is because of the rigor of the vetting process that we go through with them. And that means what that entails is everything from, like you said, they're subject matter experts. Well, we have to make sure they are. So we have very tough subject exams that they have to pass. Once they pass that test, they have to go through an interview process with some of our staff to ensure that they can use the technology, that they are comfortable with technology, because we use technology. That is our mode of operation. So, that they can engage well with students in an online environment, that they communicate well because we both speak to students and chat with students in the online environment. Then they go through a criminal and education background check. We want to make sure it's safe. We want to make sure we have the best character folks working with students.
Wow.
So they go through that.
Days.
And then once they go through all that, then they do a couple of things. One, they're given resources that we have created that go through how you communicate, empathy in the classroom, all of that, as well as they are assigned a quality specialist that works with them, reviews their tutoring sessions as they start to tutor for us. Identify areas that they do well, identify areas that maybe they could improve their communication, so that there's lots of oversight to ensure that experience is really special for that student. When a student seeks help, it's hard, right? When I always, no one wants to raise their hand in class. No one, So when you're seeking help, you're vulnerable in some way. So we want to make sure that when that student does come into that classroom, we are lifting them up and giving them the help that they need. So two things: one, do well; two, come back and get additional help from us.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And I have to ask, and I don't know whether you have this breakdown. What always worries me, there are so many rural school districts out there. Okay, I live in one, as a matter of fact. I live in southern Maine, but in western Maine. Okay, and it's hard for them to get teachers to come out here or wherever. Okay, West Texas, North Dakota, whatever you want to say. Okay, it's hard to get teachers in the rural areas. Are you guys doing a lot of work with rural schools, or do you find it's mostly urban, or is it a total cross section, suburban, urban, rural? What are you finding?
I believe it's a cross section. I believe it's a cross section. I don't know for sure. I know we work with very large, big urban districts like LAUSD, but I know we work with smaller districts as well. So yeah, it's a cross section. I think for us, when you talk about equity, and I know equity is obviously critical and important to you, and
it is.
For anything to be equitable to us, it has to be scalable, right? It has to be, you have to be able to reach students wherever they are,
Yes.
So for us, that's critical as to being able to support students, whether it's in rural communities, whether it's in urban communities. So to us, there's two things that go on. One, to make sure it's scalable, that everyone can have access. And, one of the things that did happen during the pandemic is that there were all these programs of giving Wi-Fi access to students at home and equipment and things like that. So that solved some of it, not all of it. We all know that. But some of those issues were solved with that. And then, some. I know some. Yeah. And then then secondly, it's an awareness building exercise, right? Schools can have the best resources, but if students don't know about it, if parents don't know about it, if teachers don't evangelize it, then again, it's hard to reach all students. So for us, implementation and awareness building is critical in how we work with our schools and districts, because we want to reach every student on that campus, in that district or in that school. So
and you do a great job of doing it. And the reason I asked that was because I want rural schools to understand how important this is. Okay, this isn't just for big districts. Okay, this is something because school districts are fed. You said it before with the teacher shortage and all that. But here's a way for kids to learn, and it works. Okay, it works. Okay, I'll be reading the statistics here. They're all good. Okay, all in the high 90s. Okay, for everything that you guys do. All right, it's so darn important that they understand that this is available. You are not beating your head against the wall. We can make this happen for every kid, and that's why I wanted you to come on the show, because tutoring, all right, it's an equity question. Okay, it's equity, 100%. It's access to learning. All right, it's really, really important. And you said something before that I just loved, and I think I got a quote. You said, when I was a kid and doing lousy in math, my parents hired a kid to help me tutor me and all. Kid, it was ridiculous. All right, I was horrible in math, and I still am, by the way. Okay, and it was just I didn't understand anything, and it was just to get the answers right on the test. I didn't even understand what I was doing. But you said something that I thought was very important, that you take the time to let the kids understand how you're working, not just math, but in anything, how the logic is of working through the challenge, through the problem to get the right answer. The answer is important, but the way you get there is also important. Okay, and you said you get into that deeper level of thinking and of learning, and if you're training your tutors to walk these kids through that is such an important process, because it's not just a stupid answer. Okay, it's the process of thinking, and most kids are not going to be most kids are not going to be mathematicians when they grow up. I would say a very small percentage of them are, but you got to understand the process of thinking. Okay, and if your folks do that, which I have a feeling they do, okay, I think it's very, very, very important. How we get all this done. Tutoring is an equity thing. That's all there, and that certainly better than everybody else.
Larry, there's one more thing I want to mention that I did not mention.
Be my guest, please.
Tutor.com.
You are my guest, so please expand on being my guest. Go ahead. Keep going.
Awesome. Is that we are a service of the Princeton Review, and one of the things that we offer on the Tutor.com platform is SAT, ACT test prep. So
thank you.
It's courses, it's self-paced courses that students can access, again, at no cost to them, because the school or the district is paying for access to Tutor.com. So this test prep that, affluent families are paying money for, right? The Princeton Review is well known and is the best at providing prep for those tests. We offer that on our platform where they can take practice tests. They can get a score report. They can determine areas they do well in and areas that they need to improve, and then have quizzes and skill resources and things like that they can use to help improve in that area, and then take another practice test to see if they've improved their score. So
I could have used you. I could have used you.
Now talk about equity, though. I mean, that's a real equity opportunity. Because
you're not kidding.
Again, families are paying. Affluent families have always known that tutoring and test prep works, right? That's why they spend money on it. But now this is given access to all students. It's for everybody.
And in light of what you just said, we have to remember that the scores on the ACT and the SATs over the last few years are lower than they have ever been. Okay? And so what the work you do is so important in building up those scores. We don't want to lower the quality of the test. Okay, we want to make it equitable. No. We don't want to lower the quality because, quite obviously, you don't want your doctor to flunk heart. Okay, that's not good. Okay, you don't want them to get a C in heart. Okay, but my point is, this always works. Okay, and thank you for bringing that up, because that is a key thing to uplift those grades. Okay, and get the kids into the schools they need to get into, and that's. Boy, you guys are pretty good. This was great, Sandi. Thank you for being here. This was wonderful.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome here. We'll talk about it. I'll give you a call. We'll talk. We'll get to know each other a little better. Okay, this is great stuff. Okay, stay dry. Put on your galoshes and go before you go outside. It's out in California.
Will.
Yeah,
I'm heading your way in April, so I'm heading to New Hampshire in April. So
where are you going?
I'm looking forward to that too.
Are you going to Londonderry? You going to Londonderry?
I'm going to Londonderry. My sister.
There you go.
My sister lives in Londonderry, so that's where I'm headed.
Just so you know this, I live in Maine now, but my kids grew up in Exeter, New Hampshire.
Oh, awesome! That's awesome.
So I know New Hampshire really well.
You and I could chat all day long about.
We're going to. The Lawrence, the Essex County, Middlesex County, the New Hampshire, and the New England. So it all works. Okay, stay dry out there.
Then we'll share the stories about Hampton Beach and Salisbury.
Thank you very much. We can do that. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, it's great stuff. It really is. Sandi, this is wonderful. Okay, I'll be in touch, and please be careful with all that crazy.
It. Thank you
it's nuts
to you
out
and
there.
all your listeners.
Right now. Yeah, the Golden State is a little brown and wet right now, so just be safe, okay?
I will.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I appreciate you. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, tutor.com. The obviously, it's pretty easy to find, tutor.com. That's Sandi. Okay, ask for her by name if you need her. She's the VP of Institutional Markets over there. And the New England girl. Okay, she'll be back. Hey, we're going to archive. Hey, tutoring's all about equity and access. That's all. That's what it is. All right, what can I tell you? Give everybody a fair shot. All right, I'm so thrilled they work with districts of all sizes. We'll archive over at ace-ed.org. Share with your friends. Go over there. Everything we do is free for educators over there. And they should subscribe to our magazine, Equity and Access, etc., okay, like thousands of others do. My name's Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio, and thanks so much for listening today. Thank you, Sandi.